Uh, what do you want to do tonight, Doug?
The same thing we do every night, Todd. Try to take over the world of podcasting.
There we go. Alrighty then.
I kind of think that'd be a good part for the theme song to hit, though. But
I mean, we could figure out how to put that in there.
so
Let's see, let me open up the show notes. New, 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 new. So Doug was nice enough to write out some outline for the show. So introduction, what the show is and who we are, and you want to start?
yeah, I'll start it. So this is the ADHD, the Attention Deficit Hyperactive Podcast. We are a couple of neurospicy dudes that are talking politics. This is going to be local to Washington State and also national because ultimately I just have to be on the record about what's going on right now. Even if you and I are the only ones that ever hear this, I have to be on the record. I cannot abide what's going on and then just fritter away on the internet in social media arguments. But we'll bring some of those social media arguments to this podcast. That'll be a feature of the show. Um, and we have some principles we're going to go over. This is the first time I've done a podcast in, gosh, 15 years.
Oh wow, yeah.
And but Todd, you're a little more regular on this. Like you wanna tell us what your history is with podcasts?
My history with podcasting is in 2011, I went to Emerald City Comic Con and I was there to meet Pinky and the Brain. That's why we did that little opening sketch because that's one of my favorite shows from the 90s. And I got to meet Rob Paulson and Maurice LaMarche. And during one of the panels they had for voice acting and all that kind of stuff, Rob said, "Hey, I have a podcast if you guys are interested, and we talk about the things we're talking about here." And I'm like, I would absolutely love to listen to that podcast because it was just a bunch of voice actors talking about creating characters and whatnot. And so that was my first ever download of a podcast ever. I knew that podcasts existed. I knew that Kevin Smith was huge into podcasting at that point because he'd kind of given up on making movies. But I had no knowledge of how to find it or where to get it and what it even is. So after being in that panel for an hour, I was like, I have to listen to this podcast. If it's anything like what I just experienced, this is going to be awesome. So I went on to my Android phone, which at that point Google didn't have like a native, still don't actually, I don't think, a native podcast app. So I grabbed whatever the free app was at the time, and now I use Podcast Addict, which I think Doug also uses. If you're on
Yes.
Android, we definitely recommend that app. I went ahead and paid for it
Absolutely.
because I wanted to have all the features and none of the adverts. And Doug is okay with it. So I don't remember it being expensive, but I don't know how they monetize it now. So that was 2011, 2012, I think, was when I started. And then I chatted up with a buddy of mine. He's like, "Hey, what do you think about because we would get together and we would just talk about whatever is going on that week. We would talk about movies we'd seen. We talked about TV shows and some stuff about the news, like whatever was in the entertainment news. Wasn't real big on politics back then, and I, for the most part, really don't care. But I do care enough that I definitely vote. I definitely vote blue, and it's where we're going is not okay. And I try not to think about it too much because it would really stress me out.
Yeah.
With being ADHD, we tend to hyper focus on things that are not good for us. So I try to limit my exposure to a lot of those types of things because if I hyper focus on what he's doing right now, I'm not going to end up doing well. So
And of course, you don't even have to say who he is for everyone to know who
oh
you're
yeah, I
talking
think
about.
everybody knows. I mean, we're talking about
Yeah.
the Tangerine Mussolini. So and
Yeah. Clown stick Von Fuckface or
yeah,
whatever
yeah.
John Stewart.
Yeah. All of those.
But that is a good point, though, that you're not the politics guy. I'm a politics junkie.
Yeah.
I'm listening to the Majority Report every day.
Yeah.
I used to live on MSNBC, which I don't watch anymore. But I'm the politics guy. Todd's the podcast guy, and we're just kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
combining our powers to
Yeah.
see what we have.
Yeah. So are you said you're also ADHD, so have you been formally like
No.
diagnosed?
So I describe myself as neurospicy. I'm more of an anxiety issue guy. So,
Okay. I
so
mean,
you'll probably hear some of that come out in across the shows. Hopefully, I get more comfortable. Hopefully, we do this long enough that I get to get comfortable.
yeah.
But I used to do stand up comedy, as you know,
Yeah.
and Todd's also dabbled in stand up as well.
I did a handful of times back in 2013, and then I tried again about 6 years ago, and I remembered why I stopped doing it 12 years ago.
But that is how we know each other.
Yeah, that's
Is because I used to run a
hello, and I think we lost Doug. Doug, you still there?
each one lasted a year. And so I'm pretty proud of that. But then I got a real job and stopped writing new material. And when you don't have new material, it's hard to get on stage, especially when you're already
Yeah,
anxious about it. So
we
that
lost you.
was that was kind of my
We
backstory.
lost you for a second there. Um,
Oh,
it tuned out a little bit, but you came right back, and I think people got it for the most
yeah,
part.
that's I'm used to that. People tune me out. Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, it's
Um, so
so
yeah, go ahead.
so Doug came to me. He's like, "Hey, what do you think about doing a podcast where we talk about politics?" He's like, "Well, I mean, I will share things that either make me laugh about politics or like make me like facepalm or head desk, one of the two. And I don't do a lot of like deep diving as far as politics goes, but yeah, I'm good for talking for however long we talk, and I'll give my thoughts on stories that Doug brings up, and I'll see if I can find stuff to bring up. I didn't actually look up any stories. I just figure at the point that it's my turn, I will just pull something out of my ass like I always do. So
So I also like I'm kind of counting on you not necessarily knowing what we're talking about so that you can ask questions and then that'll
oh,
prompt me to give my take on things.
that's I
So
think that will make for a good dynamic thing because if we're not if we're both like in our own little space as far as like politics go, there's more. It would I think there would be more tendency for an argument to start up, especially if we think the other person might be a little bit wrong. So that's probably a good thing.
yeah, for sure. Um, and then I guess on that note, I did want to share that my principles, which I've been thinking about for a long time. These are kind of my political views, and it's distilled down to five basic points, and that's just so people can understand where I'm coming from in a political sense. Because I feel like the world has kind of gotten well, not the world, but America has kind of gotten off track in the way we debate politics.
Right.
We're either thinking of a strictly left versus right, and and for me, it's really more about corporation versus labor. It's really more about the average person versus people who never have to worry about anything. And I don't necessarily want unnecessary things from my government, but I do believe I am what you may have formerly called a goo. I believe in good government, and I believe all our problems with government stem from how we do elections. It stems from money in elections. It stems from how we vote. It stems from the electoral college essentially mandating a two-party system. That's part of my
Yeah.
belief is we can never get out of the two-party system unless we have either an end to the electoral college or some sort of national ranked choice voting.
Yeah.
Um,
Ranked
but
choice
but my
voting. That's what they do in Australia, right?
I don't know. They started recently doing it in Alaska,
Well,
and that's how the indigenous representative got elected up there. And
that's
so
when that's when you give like your top five people you want, and as people are voted
exactly.
out, you whittle down your list from five to one, right?
Correct. Yep. And anybody who, yeah, if your top choice didn't go, then your voices, then your vote, then your votes hello, words, then your votes get sent to your next choice until there's a
Right.
majority winner. And yeah, it allows for third parties to exist. Because
That
right now, the Electoral College, if nobody gets a majority of the votes, it goes to the House of Representatives, and then Congress picks the president. So you have to pretty much divide into one of two parties to have a chance. Otherwise it's just the House voting every time.
yeah.
So with that, these are my five principles. They are things I've been thinking about forever, but when I wrote them down, it was kind of spur of the moment off the top of my head. So these could be refined, expanded on, or condensed over time.
In no particular order, and will be updated as needed.
Yes, exactly. So the first one is I don't want the government to be any bigger than it needs to be to do its job, but it needs to be big enough to do its job. So
Yeah.
that means if you want big business, if you want mergers and acquisitions, if you want an Amazon to exist, which I don't know that they need to, but if that's what we're going to have, and certainly does exist now, um, you need a government that's big enough to regulate, a government that can't be bought off by the corporations. So a government that's big enough to do its job.
Yeah.
I also believe that everyone should pay the same taxes on the same dollars. Now,
Yeah.
that does not mean a flat tax. That does not mean a flat tax. It means everybody pays the same amount of taxes on their first $20,000. They pay the same amount of taxes on their next $20,000. They pay the same amount of taxes on their $200,000. They pay the same amount of taxes on their $1 millionth, and so on. It's just that tax rate should go up as the money goes up. And if I don't have $1 millionth or a $200,000 or $100,000 to tax, so be it.
Yeah.
But if you do have that money, we're going to tax it at that rate.
That seems fair.
And,
Yeah.
and part of the reason is a consolidation of wealth leads to idle money. And idle money is as bad as idle hands in my book. You have these billionaires that have more money than they could ever spend, and they got to do something with it.
Yeah.
So what do? They start buying newspapers. They start buying television networks. They start trying to privatize space, and I don't think that's healthy for anyone. I think
Yeah.
it's better when
Okay.
ownership run everything.
We lost you for
And I mentioned this
we
already,
lost
but
you there
oh,
for a
sorry.
minute. Go ahead and repeat what you said in the last 30 seconds.
What was the last thing you heard?
You talked. Oh God, of course. Um, I don't know, just the last 10 seconds or
Did
so.
I get through all the taxes stuff?
I heard starting talking about taxes.
So what I said was I want everyone to pay the same taxes on the same dollars. I heard you say that made sense.
Yeah.
And the whole point is that if you don't, I want the taxes to progress. I believe in a progressive tax rate, just to put it as simply as possible.
Right.
But and what that means to me is that everyone is paying the same taxes on the same dollars. It's just not everybody is taking in the same amount of dollars.
Right.
And then I mentioned this before, but I believe a lack of trust in government is a problem with elections, not with government. So you hear people say, "Oh, Trump's in power now. Don't you wish the government was less powerful?" And no, I don't wish the government was less powerful. I wish we had better ways of electing people so people like Trump couldn't buy their
Right.
way into an election.
Right. We don't want the wrong people in office. Is basically what we're saying.
Exactly. And I don't want to kill our ability to have good government because we're afraid of who might get in. We need to make sure we have a good system of electing people. Fourth principle is that personal responsibility means working together. So this rugged individualism that America has often been obsessed with and associated with is fine in a certain sense. Like if you're going to go live in the woods and be off the grid and do your own thing, I don't believe you should be bothered with. But if you're doing that so that you can start a cult and abuse children, I I think we as a society have a duty to live together and work together. I also think the most personally responsible thing a person can do is to band with other people to create a better life for themselves.
Yeah.
Whether that's, I think about like people getting, if you want to go to like an old school analogy, I think about like moving water from a river to a village. Do you make everybody take their own bucket and make the trek to the river and back to the village? Or do you start a human chain where everybody just passes a bucket along? And to me, the more people there are in the world, the less everyone should have to work, and the more
Right.
free time everyone should have.
Work smarter,
Um,
not harder. Yeah.
exactly. There was a time in our, not in our lives, but there was a time in the 20th century where people thought via the labor movement that technology innovation, automation, and population increase was going to make it so that people didn't really have to work more than 4 hours a day, maybe even 4 hours a week. I've been listening to Thomas Piketty, who's a French economist, and I think it's him that referenced the potential 0 hour work week, where people would maybe log into a machine for like 15 to 30 minutes a day, and that would be enough to do the production that their community needed. And so I definitely believe, yeah, work
Yeah.
smarter, not harder.
Yeah. I
And then
never
lastly, oh yeah, go
I
ahead.
never understood the, I work hard for my money. It's like, why do you have to work hard to make money? you know, if you can get things done in a way that is not gonna put you out as far as your physical health, or compromise your personal health in any way, shape, or form. Like people who did working in coal mines and stuff, they inhaled all that shit, and a lot of them got cancer and died. So, I mean, there's safety precautions for a lot of things. Like my cousin Marianne, her day job is she's like a safety person. So she's that person who's always like talking about OSHA and whatnot. You know, you need to wear this kind of mask in order to keep yourself from getting ill and getting cancer later in life, or even in a few weeks or months even. But yeah, I never understood the need to break yourself in order to feel like you've accomplished something.
Exactly. Like the whole point of working is so we can have a life. Our
Yeah,
life shouldn't be dedicated to working.
yeah,
I'm kind of biblical about this. Like Jesus said, and also I believe King David supposedly said that. By the way, I'm not sure if either one of those are actually historical, but we'll leave that for another
I don't think
podcast.
they are, but I don't think it's even important. so
Exactly. But what Jesus said, what David said, is that the law is here to serve people. People aren't here to serve the law. And I feel that way about the economy.
yeah,
The economy is here to serve us. We are not here to serve the economy.
yeah,
And then lastly, the last principle is and this is the bottom, this is the base one. This is the one that all the others are intended to serve essentially. And that's that everyone deserves to eat and to have a safe and secure place to sleep. Like
yeah.
that's just as
Absolutely.
fundamental as I can put it.
You know, it's weird to hear people say, "Well, they shouldn't have access to that." It's like, why? I mean, you don't think they deserve a nice warm place to sleep? You don't think they deserve to have food? Well, they need to work for it like everybody else. It's like, well, what if they can't? What if they're amongst the people that are unable to do those things in order to get money to take care of themselves?
Hans Kim, a comic I know, he has a joke that perfectly encapsulates what you were just saying, and that's capitalism is great if you want to do it, but we don't make your grandmother play Call of Duty and then take her house if she loses. Like capitalism is a game. You still got me?
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm laughing because that's a great analogy.
Well, don't mute yourself if you're laughing. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not. I'm not. No, I'm just trying not to like over saturate the
No, I
microphone with
just
my
messing with you.
my voice because
Um,
I will cackle loudly and the neighbors will hear me. So I don't want to do that.
I forget. You're recording. I'm recording in the basement of a house. I'm just probably waking my kids up is all. Um, but yeah, capitalism is it's a game of money to make money, and it's not everyone is fit to be in the battlefield that is capitalism.
Yeah. That reminds me of a meme I once saw. It's like, so what do you do? It's like, oh, I'm a model, and it shows that she's like an Instagram someone on Instagram who's always
Right.
posting photos of themselves in like bikinis and what. I was like, oh yeah, what do you do? It's like, oh yeah, I'm a veteran, and it shows his like Call of Duty profile.
Right. Yes. And then and then in as so far as those principles go, if you can even really call them principles, but as far as those goals go, um, nobody's perfect. I'm not saying that we're ever going to perfectly achieve or strive for anything, and
Yeah.
that's why my ultimate lesson is the Maya Angelou rule, which is you
Yeah.
do the best you know, and when you know better, do better.
I
And so that's kind of what I'm all about. I think Todd's on board with that.
Yeah, that sounds good. What I would say is, I don't know if we're ever going to see a Roddenberry style future in my lifetime. We might see. And I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name who wrote 1984, but we're already there.
George Orwell.
Orwell, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so we're already in an Orwellian future, and I saw again memes. I saw a meme a few years back of back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. People would be like, "Yeah, better not talk about that. The government might be listening." And now we're like, "Hey, government, what time is it?" And then it shows on Alexa responding. So
Exactly. But no, speaking of 1984, I had a funny exchange on Facebook the other day, um, where somebody had posted about how Trump is trying to start a war with Canada, right? And
yeah.
and the post was just like, Canada is our friends. Canada has always been our friends. They've gone into any single boneheaded war that America's stumbled into. Canada's been right there on our side. They always have our backs. They always give us whatever they can.
Elbows
And so
up.
I left exactly. Well, now they are,
Yeah.
but but I just made a joke. I just said we've always been at war with Canada. I don't know if you're familiar with the line in 1984 where we've always been at war with East Asia,
Oh,
where it's
okay.
just whoever we're currently at war with. Oh, we've always been at war with them.
The
We've always.
the thing that I was trying to find an animated GIF of from the South Park movie when Elon Musk said that Canada's not even a real country, and I was like, they're not even a real country anyway. Um,
Blame Canada, blame Canada.
yeah, and that bitch had
Speaking
married
of,
too. Yeah.
it was funny though because I said that line like we've always been at war with Canada, just like referencing that line from 1984. Somebody replied to me like, "Oh, really?" Like took it genuinely. They're like, "Oh, really?
Yeah.
Explain to me when we've been at war with Canada." I'll wait.
Yeah.
And then he did the gif of somebody sipping tea,
Yeah. I
and
saw
I was
that.
like, "Oh, that was a reference to 1984." And he comes back to me going, "You should check your history. 1812 is the only time we've been at war with Canada." And I was like, no,
I
no,
mean,
dude, no, dude. The
so
book, not the year.
yeah, yeah. Well, and that's the thing though is you're getting to the age where you make references to things that people don't know what the fuck you're talking about because they're young, and I do that all the time, and I look around and go, hey, that was funny, right? And everyone's looking at me like, was that a joke? I'm like, come on, it's a pop culture reference, folks. They're like, you
To be
know,
fair, that book is from 1936. It was old. It's an old book to everyone. You're supposed to
yeah,
read it in
yeah.
school.
I never read it. I tried watching the movie and it was really slow. Um,
I don't know if I've ever seen the movie.
and yeah, it's got
That
some
book pissed me off.
it's got some recognizable people in it, but I couldn't tell you their names.
Yeah. But yeah, that was the first book to piss me off with the way it ended. I
Oh,
get it now as an adult, but I read it in like seventh grade humanities. And, and if you don't know about the end of the book, do you want me to spoil it for you?
go for it, yeah, because I'm never gonna read it.
Yeah, so the whole book is this guy Winston trying to basically come out from the thumb of Big Brother. Big Brother being the government that monitors
Right?
everything, right?
Yeah. No, I'm
And
aware
you're
of that
supposed
much of
to
it, but yeah.
yeah, and you're supposed to love Big Brother. Like they want you to
Oh,
genuinely love Big Brother.
you
And it's just ridiculous, right? Like who yeah, and he's fighting the good fight. He
uh,
thinks he finds a way into an underground resistance, but it turns out the resistance is just a trap to get people to get dissatisfied people and send them to a re-education camp.
yeah.
And the ending of the book, he is literally walking out of his cell at like the rehabilitation camp, and he's sort of going to escape, I guess. It's been a long time since I've read it, but he gets shot in the back of the head as he's walking down the hall, and his final thought is that he finally loves Big Brother.
Oh, wow.
And it pissed me off so much.
I
I was like,
bet.
oh, because I was a kid. I'm like, no, the hero's supposed to hero at the end. Like he's not
Yeah,
supposed to give
there's
in.
supposed to be a happy ending. That's what we've been told by Disney all our lives.
And not only does he die, like he didn't even die for his beliefs. He died and still loved Big Brother at the end. Like he
Yeah,
succumbed and was killed.
that's
It's infuriating. But that
yeah.
was the point, right? It's
I'm
supposed to.
glad I didn't finish watching the movie because I would have been pissed off too, man. Especially if it ended
Yeah,
the same way. So,
yeah. And I wonder if they had to redo it for Hollywood.
I don't know. I
Uh,
think the movie is available on one of the free streaming sites. I think I remember that's where I watched it. I think it was either on Tubi or it was on Pluto, one of the two, or it might have been
is it
even.
an old movie or is it something they redid recently?
It actually came out in 1984.
Okay, okay. They were on top of that one.
Yeah,
They had 50 years where they're like, we're gonna nail this.
yeah. I like I said, it's got some recognizable people, but their names are escaping me right now. Like I think I could be wrong. You know,
Probably
hey,
has Kyle McLaughlin in it.
let me do this. Let me open up because I am on my computer. I can access the Googleator.
If
Uh,
Kyle McLaughlin's in it, I'm awarding myself points.
1984 movie. Okay, it's on Pluto TV right now.
It's on right now.
Let's see. Cast. It has John Hurt. Uh,
Okay, that's a good one.
that's the one. That's the one face I did recognize. I couldn't remember his name. And then there's Susanna Hamilton,
Don't know her.
Richard Burton, Bob
Okay, that
Flagg,
sounds familiar.
Rupert Baderman, Martha Parsi, Gregor Fisher, Roger Lloyd Pack, Karina Seddon, and if there are any more, oh, there's a bunch more. Um, oh, I reckon there's a lot of these faces. Holy crap. Um, let's see. Peter Fry, James Walker, Anthony Benson, John Boswell, Shirley Steph Fox.
We're not getting a Kyle McLaughlin though, are
I don't see Kyle. No.
we?
No
All good.
Kyle.
Thanks for
There's
doing
no Kyle here.
it.
Screw you guys. I'm going
Speaking of
home.
South Park, I've made an analogy now on the social medias a few times, comparing what's going on with Musk and Doge or Doggy, uh,
Doge.
Doge. I like Doggy. I think Doggy's enough.
Yeah,
Like makes it silly enough.
we should just call it Doggy.
Yeah, that's what Heather Cox Richardson calls it.
Yeah.
By the way, for anybody listening, if you want a historian's perspective on current events, you can't do any better than Heather Cox Richardson.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and make as many referrals as I can to other shows that you should go listen to that probably do this so much better than us. But if we can do one thing, we can at least spread the gospel of people spreading
Yeah.
good information on the internet. And Heather Cox Richardson, you can find her on Facebook, you can find her on YouTube. She has a great Substack. She's a historian that does basically a then and now type of analysis, and she also does regular politics chats. If this podcast ever gets to the level where we can talk to Heather Cox Richardson, I will die a theatrically happy man. Um,
Awesome.
but what I was getting at is are you familiar, Todd, with the South Park episode, Our Wacky Molestation Adventure?
I I is that the one where Chef joins the stupid little group, or is this a different one?
It's the one where the kids realize if they tell the kids don't want to be bossed around by their parents, they don't want to do their homework, they don't want to
Oh
listen to their
yeah,
parents,
yeah, and they
so they
have
just say the M word and their parents get taken away, and eventually they have the whole town is just run by children.
and
So it's
it's
kind of a Lord of the Flies
Lord of the
episode,
Flies
but
episode. Yeah, I do remember that. It's been a while, but yeah, I do remember that.
I've been making the comparison to the what we're doing with Doggy and Musk. as our wacky anti-government adventure,
Yeah.
where you just say DEI or corruption, and poof, a whole department goes away. No more education. No, no more. You can't have anything that's you just have children in charge, and no one's
Right.
no one's being responsible, and all it costs you is having to sacrifice children to the provider, which is basically what they've been doing, cutting off U.S. aid, cutting off school programs. It's 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 disgusting. It's literally just claiming corruption without any evidence and saying literally they had a Republican representative held a town hall where she just said the spending is the corruption.
Yeah.
So it's like anything the
It's
government does is automatically corruption.
I
Anything a minority does is automatically DEI.
I look at it
And
like this. Anytime a conservative person starts screaming, crying wolf or whatever, I look at it like this. They're exposing what they've done or what they're doing by blaming somebody else for doing the same
yes,
thing.
every accusation is a confession with these
Yeah,
people.
yeah. It's
100%.
projection, and and uh,
Yes.
and I just every time I get into an argument with somebody, they're like, "You're just." Oh man, I had for the first time in the last 9 years of seeing people like promoting or doing whatever with Trump. I have a dark Brandon sticker on the back of my car, and somebody drove past me at the gas station and goes, I voted for Biden. I was like, well, wow, you're a smart guy, aren't you? So I was like, how do you respond to stuff like that? I just thought I didn't know how else to respond to this. Like I have never been uh, had anybody come up to me and like laugh at me for having a political sticker on my car. That's actually the first one I've ever had, though, by the way. And I figured it was hidden well enough from all the other shit that I have in the back of my car that no one would even pick it out. So
Speaking of Dark Brandon, that's another good YouTube channel for people to check out. Dark Brandon does. They're basically just him ranting. I think it's all just him, but he uses a different voice filter and cartoon character for everyone, so
yeah,
it kind of gives it a different panache. Like he'll have Steve. There's a great video where he has a Steve Bannon AI voice talking about how MAGA weaponized stupidity.
yeah.
It's great. Yeah.
There's
So Dark
there's
Brandon.
a there's a few people I follow on social media. I think both on TikTok and Instagram for like videos. There's one on TikTok that started doing like AI voices along with some AI animation, where it's basically calling people out for just like I can't believe you guys are falling for this shit. I mean, it's right in front of your face. How are you okay with any of this? And it talks about whatever it is that they're has got them enraged, and it's always a caricature of either Kyle or Cartman from South Park, and these rants are either Kyle's voice or Cartman's voice as an AI variation on it. I'll have to send you that. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Are you on TikTok? Do you browse TikTok at
No,
all?
I am one of those people that like I was suspect of TikTok from the start. So as soon as people started saying that like it's Chinese spyware, I was like, no, I believe that. I'm
Yeah.
not getting involved
It's
in. Like as
honestly,
soon as I heard the University of Washington didn't allow employees to have TikTok, I was like, there's something to this.
I
And the reason,
I was gonna say I think a lot of that is just because it's a platform that the government had no control over up until recently. They had no way of
well,
stopping people from posting things. There was no algorithm that stopped people from sharing all this stupid shit that's being said by various people. I don't know if I necessarily want to say who, but just now since it went offline for 12 hours and came back up, the platform is different. The algorithm acts differently. Anytime I post anything that mentions Trump or Elon, they get no views, zero, zilch. Or if they do get
yeah,
views, it's I get maybe at most 25 views and no likes,
yeah.
no comments.
My issue is just more with I believe it's data all the apps are data gathering information.
Yeah,
But at least
that's
the
what
ones that
social
are
media is, man.
operated by American companies are subject to American regulations.
I look at it like
TikTok was.
so. Believe it or not, TikTok is actually an American company. It has one or two of the owners are from China, but they're not members of the government.
They haven't been able to say that they don't have an ability to monitor it though. But I'll tell you the reason why I was suspect of it from the start though, and that was I was a Vine user, or at least I was a Vine watcher,
Yeah.
and they killed off Vine. Somebody bought Vine and killed
No,
it off,
Twitter did that.
and
Twitter did that.
and then all of a sudden TikTok comes in to replace it, and I'm like, this is weird. Like this is like they have
I
now
don't.
we have TikTok. What was wrong with Vine? Why did Vine lose popularity? And now this is being pushed. And I'm like, and then they started talking about, oh well, it's Chinese spyware, and you can't
Yeah,
use it
you can,
if you're
but
a government
keep in mind
employee. And I'm
the
like,
people that were saying it was Chinese spyware were usually people from Fox News or any of the other
no,
variants
no,
of
no, no,
that.
no. Before that, I'm going before this. This is
Okay.
this is when TikTok first came out. It was the University of Washington, which is not a right wing think tank in any way, shape, or
No,
form.
it absolutely is
Was
not. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they were the ones saying like our employees were just to be safe, don't have TikTok on your phone on your work phone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that to me is enough of a red flag where I don't need it. That was
I mean,
and plus now I have YouTube Shorts and anything. Having YouTube Shorts is like having a curated version of TikTok. Like it's all the best of
I
TikTok.
mean, it does the same thing that Reels does, which is like about
Same thing, yeah,
a week or two after it's gone viral on TikTok, it's over on Reels. And
exactly. Yeah.
I look at it like this. Um, I don't really care if they're data mining my information. What are they going to get from me? I don't have a job that requires me to like have like VPNs and all that kind of shit. The other thing is that if the Chinese government really, really wanted to have our data, they could just buy it from Facebook or Google.
And that's the thing is I do wonder. I think there are more regulations on that now. There is definitely back channel things. We know what Cambridge Analytica did with Facebook user data through that supposed
Yeah,
study that a guy was doing on Facebook, where he was really just harvesting data for Cambridge Analytica to do basically to help get Trump elected. I believe that that's how they
yeah.
targeted voters and everything.
So
So yeah, you're absolutely right about that.
I think it's. I mean, calling it a China app is it doesn't do it any disservice. It doesn't. I mean, it scares a lot of people into not going on there. It's basically what that it does. But if you really think about it, if you really are concerned about like your data being mined, then you shouldn't be on anything on the internet. Period.
That's true.
I mean,
That is
yeah,
very
you
true.
have to understand that if you're on the internet and you don't have a VPN or a firewall of any kind, your information is up for grabs. Period.
And that's perfectly fair.
Yeah.
So we've been at this for over a half hour now, and we're still in our first segment.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
I think
mean,
maybe we should.
this we could easily talk for. I mean, we have only gone through half of the first three. We haven't even talked about the second thing on the news this week. We've only talked about.
No, we.
I haven't even gotten that far yet.
Yeah, that's what I say. I think it's time to transition. I think it's time to transition into news of the week.
Okay.
So the first story I got is broke today. Just we're recording this on the evening of March 24th, 2025, just for posterity there.
Right.
And of course, the big news today is that the Trump's defense team, basically their defense secretary, Rubio, J.D. Vance, the vice president, apparently Tulsi Gabbard, who I believe is a Russian spy,
I have no doubt.
all on a Signal chat together,
I saw
and
that.
they just happen to have a journalist from the Atlantic in the Signal chat group
Oh
too,
my
and
God.
nobody apparently realized it. And that's first of all not supposed to be using Signal, not approved by the government. That's akin to having a private server.
Yeah.
And then yeah, you probably don't want journalists that you're not aware of just randomly invited in. Now, personally, I would be okay if we had a trusted American journalist in every Trump meeting. That would be fine. But I'm sure with these guys, they didn't even know, and that's the problem. Uh, as far as I know, maybe they're used to having an unknown number as part of the chat group, and they're just not supposed to question it because usually it's a Russian. But who really knows? And so this is hilarious. I like that he's the editor of the Atlantic, and he's just getting all these texts, and if he had been a spy, he would have had all the information. If he had felt like warning the Houthi rebels, he could have done so, and it absolutely jeopardized the mission, and mostly just displays their incompetence. On top of that, they they've gone ahead. The Trump administration, instead of just deny like they normally do, they actually admitted it. They tried to spin it that no harm came from it, but they actually admitted it. He admitted it. And I think this one seems to have some legs. I mean, I think the groundwork has been laid to demonstrate that the Trump administration is fairly incompetent and full of DUI hires like Pete Hegseth. And I think this really is the canary in the coal mine where people go, oh, wow, I guess it isn't just all he said, she said bullshit. Not to quote Limp Bizkit.
To quote Fred Durst, yeah. Hey, did you know that Fred Durst actually directed and wrote a horror movie?
No, I don't know that I have.
It stars John Travolta.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting. That's
I don't remember the name of it, but I'm sure if you do a search for John Travolta and Fred Durst, it'll come up. But yeah, so I didn't mean to derail that train of thought.
no, that was perfect timing. I was trying to fill time until you got back.
Yeah, I just so you folks know, I had to step away to go use the toilet. So
Yeah, I was trying to keep that hidden.
It's fine. I have a
We are not transparent.
I have a tiny bladder, so sometimes I need to step away. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, yeah, I saw the thing about the chat text thing that included the reporter and all that, and I'm like, these are the same people that cried and bitched and moaned about private email servers. What the fuck?
Right, which was always only ever an angle. That's all that was with the stuff on Hillary, the stuff on Benghazi.
Yeah.
And it was just an angle to get people pissed off.
Yep.
I mean, I understand everybody hates Hillary. I thought she would have actually been a fairly progressive president for the exact same reason Obama was actually kind of a conservative one, because Obama got in and he's a socialist. He's a crazy liberal leftist. And he had to spend his whole presidency basically proving he was a centrist. Hillary came in with all this center right baggage, and I think she would have at least spent her first 4 years doing truly progressive things, sort of how Biden did with the Infrastructure Act and the Jobs Act and the Inflation Reduction Act. I think she would have had to prove her progressive bona fides, and we would have got good legislation during at least the first few years. Yeah. And then it would have been a fight to hold her accountable and to drag her further left, but I think that would have been doable. I think she was just biding her time to be that progressive. Now, that's my wishful thinking. Maybe she just would have partnered up with the banks. But when Obama brought in that Treasury Secretary, whose name's escaping me at the moment, but the guy he brought in 2009, and they basically bailed out the banks instead of bailing out the people, he created Peter Thiel. He created these guys that are now owning our government. So I do blame, and I also, if we just could have had 8 years of Hillary and 8 years of Barack, we would have Supreme Court right now, and then we could really do progressive stuff. This is a topic for a future show, but I firmly believe part of the reason why we don't get true progress from the Democrats anymore is, one, because of 1994, when they passed the assault weapons ban and lost the House for the first time in like 40 years. So they were terrified of that, but also, and the Reagan thing made everybody a kind of a corporate crack.
Yeah.
But in my entire life, I turned 40 this year, And in my entire life, we have not had a liberal Supreme Court. We've had a conservative Supreme Court that would call anything truly progressive unconstitutional. And I believe that's put a lid on things. And
Yeah.
I believe it's our turn to have the court back. And that's really why I vote blue, no matter who, is because we need a liberal court again, so that we can have stuff like the Loving decision, like Brown v. Board. We can have things sustained like the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, whereas the current court has been gutting the Civil Rights and Voting Rights Act. The current court has undone Roe v. Wade. And I think really the Supreme Court is the ballgame. And that's assuming we actually ever get our democracy back and it's not just owned by this Curtis Yarvin theorized corporate autocracy, which again, that's all for a future episode.
Yeah.
But that's my little rant on that.
And now Doug gets off his soapbox.
Oh no, we're on the soapbox for this whole hour. Don't you be mistaken.
I'm just messing. Hour. We're probably gonna go longer than an hour because it's almost 50 minutes, man. So
I know, which is fine by me.
I don't care. It's fine with me.
You can. Yeah, you're the one that has to edit it.
Yeah.
So the second story of the week is Tom Homan, who is is he the Homeland Security Director?
The border czar.
The border czar, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, law enforcement officer and former acting director of U.S. Immigrations and Customs.
Oh my God! So when he
is the border czar.
Yeah, he's basically in charge of kicking out all the illegals or whatever, the undocumented immigrants.
Which is not even the case now, right? So this is what we're getting to is he basically admitted today, or whenever this interview was, if it was today or yesterday, that the people they're deporting haven't even necessarily committed crimes. They're not even necessarily here illegally. They just suspect them of being in a gang, and they're not following due process. Yeah. And that's the problem.
If you have brown skin, we're going to talk to you, kind of thing.
Well, one guy apparently got deported because he has a soccer tattoo that has a crown on it, and they say that the crown is consistent with being in a gang. They like the crowns, and so that's all that it made him. And
also that's like a generic gang thing is a crown.
Apparently, at least for this particular gang that they're talking about.
I don't know if you heard my eyes roll back, but yeah, they just.
And
oh my God.
And they're not giving them due process is the big thing.
Yeah.
And I know people think that they're safe because they're citizens. They were born here or they were naturalized. But the thing is,
they said that naturalization is going to get reversed. So.
And it's just like, I don't think he can do that. But then again, he's not supposed to be able to do what he's doing now, and he's still doing it. Right. He's defying court orders to get people out of the country. And really, the point is just to terrify people so that people that aren't white keep either leave on their own or hide and don't come out to have to be seen by his fragile white eyes. But without due process, it could be anybody, because due process is the part where you prove you are a citizen. So it could be anybody. If you don't get to do the part where you prove you're a citizen, it doesn't matter if you're a citizen.
Yeah.
And so eventually it's going to become any dissident. And that's part of why I want to do this podcast, because come get me then. Like, if you're going to go with these people because you don't like them, I'm going to make you not like me, because I'm not going to sit back and just watch it happen.
Let's be real. Unless we get really popular, they're not going to come looking for us.
No, I know.
We're both white men, so we're not on the chopping block. I mean, I could be on the chopping block because I'm on disability, but that's I don't know how far along they are on that kind of stuff. I hear stories that they're gonna be cutting Social Security, which is how I'm able to pay my bills and everything. So if that goes away, I'm completely fucked.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're absolutely at risk of that, and it's terrifying, and it's awful.
Yeah.
And
I
yeah,
actively try not to think about that because I don't want to spend my whole day like stressing about something I have no control over. So
but yes, I could very easily pass in a Trump MAGA world, right? I am a white cis man. I could absolutely just get by and
yeah,
go on my day to day life, and if I had the ability to not think about things, I could do that. But I just can't. I can't. I think a lot about that quote that's attributed to Werner Herzog about America is coming to grips with the fact that a third of their people would kill or deport a third of their people, while the other third of the people just watch.
yeah,
And and I know I'm not really doing anything when I'm just talking on a podcast, but it feels at least I feel like I'm doing more than just watching,
yeah.
and I'm at
Well,
least speaking out.
we're letting people know that there are people that are paying attention and that you know I mean you more than me, but yeah. So, but yeah.
That's why I roped you into here. You're on the.
I
But yeah, it's.
Yeah. No,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, it's anytime I go down the rabbit hole of politics, political videos, I'll watch a bunch of them and then I'll get kind of like a little worked up. It's like I need to go do something else for a bit because I don't want I want to be thinking about this all day, and because I'm fortunately for me, I at this point in time in my life, I can do that. So at some point, it's probably not going to be easy to do, and I'm just going to have to be stressing all the time.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
well, that's not fun.
yeah.
Um, Last topic for news of the week is Turkey. Have you, Todd, heard about what's going on in Turkey?
I have not. And when I saw turkey, I was like, is he going to talk about sandwiches? But
Actually, yes. No, that's it's it pairs well with Havarti on a nice white bread. No, so I know I mentioned at the top of the show that this podcast was going to be focused on both Washington State local politics, which we really haven't gotten into in this episode, and national politics.
yeah.
So why am I talking about Turkey? Because that's not either of those things. And the reason I brought in Turkey is because what's happening right now in Turkey, I believe, is a blueprint for what Trump is going to try to do in the next election.
Oh man.
And so what's happening in Turkey is they Erdogan is the president or premier of Turkey, and he's been in power there for like decades. Um, in future episodes, I will pull up tabs and have this information at my fingertips, so I can be a little bit more precise. But the important thing,
Oh
he's been in power for a long time,
yeah.
and they have an election coming up, and the mayor of, I believe it's Istanbul, which is Turkey's largest company. Speaking of Rob Paulson, you may remember that Istanbul was Constantinople.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yep.
uh, and the mayor of Istanbul is his biggest rival and might actually win the presidency there. So they have charged him with corruption and terrorism, and they've arrested him. And there are massive protests going on in Turkey right now uh, in 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 objection to this. And so this is why I bring this up is because when I don't know who it's going to be, if it's Bernie Sanders or if it's Gavin Newsom, hopefully not, whoever the Democratic front runner is going to be. Now they tried to do it with Biden, right? They tried to get Ukraine to say, "Oh, we have corruption dirt on Biden." So it's not like Trump is learning this from Turkey. I think Turkey learned it from Trump, but Turkey is actually implementing it fully right now. And so I think we need to be prepared to understand that when the Trump admin comes out and puts out charges against Eric Swalwell or whomever, we need to know that they're bullshit. We need to be inoculated against the idea that they are real corruption charges or real terrorist charges, because that's I think what they are going to do in our next election.
Yeah. I'm assuming we have another election.
Well, I do anticipate that he'll have there will be some sort of manufactured crisis, and he'll try to argue that we shouldn't have an election. My
Yeah.
question is he going to wait for the next presidential election, or is he going to try and do it at the midterms so that he doesn't lose the House.
Yeah.
That's the
I
big thing.
remember when he got elected back in 2016. I'm thinking to myself, this guy's never gonna leave, and he almost
Right.
didn't. He wanted to.
He tried not to.
Yeah, and and I was like, and I was pretty confident that he was not going to be elected a second time. So when he won it, I was just like, that ruined the rest of that month for me. I just like no.
Well, it ruined my view of the American people because I was under the impression that he won the first time only because nobody thought he would win, and a
Right,
whole bunch of people that might have voted just decided they didn't have to, and it was it's like, oh, Hillary's going to win without my vote, and I would rather not go down as having voted for her.
right,
So let's just sit it out. I was under the impression that if we had reheld the election the very next day, that Hillary would have won in a landslide.
yeah.
But apparently I'm wrong about that. Either that or they really are cheating when Trump wins or
So
when Trump is on the ballot.
I think what happened was is they convinced a bunch of young people to not vote because the
Yeah,
Democrats were in league with whoever's killing people in the Middle East or in Egypt or wherever it is, and then
Palestine.
yeah, I my brain is not braining right now, so I knew that there was something
No,
happening
you're not the politics guy.
but no, people were like, no, they're both bad. I'm not going to vote for either one. It's like if you don't vote for one, you might as well just give it to the other. So it's
Exactly. Yeah, and you not voting isn't possible because not voting is a vote in a way.
yeah, it really is. I mean, not voting
You can't.
for Kamala, excuse me, Kamala.
No, you had it right the first
Oh,
time.
did I have it right the first time? Okay, I never
Yeah,
know if I
Kamala.
have the right one. So Kamala, Kamala, right? That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was funny. Somebody actually posted a photo of a comma and then L.A. I was like,
Yeah,
comma.
exactly. That was a shirt they put out.
Yeah. But so I was
That's
just
it.
like,
To help people.
man, she did this and this and this and this, and it's like, and she sucked her way to the top. It's like, ew, no, that's not how that works. you
Yeah, it's
know?
just rumor and innuendo. That's how they operate.
Yeah.
And of course, it's biting them now because you sent me that leaked audio, right, of JD Vance,
Yeah.
and I saw it all over Facebook today, and it's fake. I am pretty sure it's fake. But you know what? If you create a world where it's just all rumor and innuendo to hurt your enemies, this kind of stuff can stick back to you.
Yeah.
So if people want to believe the JD Vance stuff is real, I will tell them it's not. As far as I can tell, it's not real. But go ahead and believe what you want because that's what Trump says you should do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have no reason to not believe it, but I mean, if Trump was to say, "Oh, that's completely fake," then I would absolutely believe it to be real. Um,
Exactly.
you know, so
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I heard that audio and I'm like, oh my god, that is so funny. They're they're fighting in the White House. It's so sad, but
Yeah. Just like the couch stuff is supposedly fake, but
yeah,
we can still have fun with it.
it's still a thing that's gonna follow him forever because of how funny it is, um, and and I love that and I'm going on another side mission here. I love that that Mike Myers is back on SNL doing impressions of Elon Musk.
And yes, it's great to see him on SNL again. Um, I've only seen the one sketch so far because I'm not a regular SNL viewer anymore now that
I'm
I'm
not either, and
old.
to be honest, I absolutely hated the rest of the episode because it was that one fucking right wing comedian that got fired from SNL like a decade ago, after day one of being there. I
Oh,
think,
are you talking about Shane? Shane
yeah,
Gillis?
yeah, dude,
He's not really right wing. Just to clear the air on that, he probably voted for Kamala to be honest. Um, I don't know that,
I mean
but he hangs out with right wingers like him, and he hangs out with right wingers.
yeah. Well, I mean you hang around shit, you're gonna get shit on you.
Yeah,
And you
fair enough.
if you hang out with Nazis, you're a Nazi. Um, but his opening monologue, he was doing all these these jokes at the expense of the left. And he goes, well, I guess I lost everyone here. I mean, this is New York, and this is a very progressive city. And he continued with his dumb joke. Nobody laughed. Didn't get any applause. All these skits were, were very funny for conservative folks. Is what I'm getting at. So,
And yeah,
you can say he's not right wing, but he came off as such, and if he wasn't, he is now. So
fair enough. And I will say it's hard. Stand up never seems to go well for the opening monologue of SNL.
I don't know. I've
It
seen some
just
pretty good opening monologues. His was
okay.
just not funny. It wasn't. I mean,
Fair enough.
I kept watching that episode because I was like, Mike is on the show. Maybe he'll show up in another skit. He didn't. He was only in the opening sketch, which was Trump and somebody else talking, and then Elon's character shows up and he's all weird and spaz.
Right, they were doing the recreation of the with his kid in the Oval Office thing, and
Yeah, or some other type of thing similar where he's just being a total spaz, and
speaking of Elon, so I was talking about how Turkey is sort of showing us a blueprint for what Trump's going to do.
yeah,
Guess who helped them?
Elon.
So Musk's ex suspends opposition accounts in Turkey amid civil unrest. So basically, anybody in support of that mayor that's been arrested, he suspended their X accounts.
I mean, it's
So
it's a good thing I don't use X anymore.
yeah. Speaking of X, or speaking of not being on X anymore, we do have a Blue Sky.
Yeah.
You want to tell people about the Blue Sky?
Yeah. If you want to follow us on Blue Sky, it is just search for ADHP as in ADHP, Attention Deficit Hyperactive Politics. You'll find it. I'm the one who's posting on there, although I'll probably give Doug access to it as well, so he can also post on it. But it's so far.
Yeah, and it's adhppod.bsky.social.
Yeah, I mean, if you just go on the Blue Sky and search for ADHP, you'll find it. So I mean, it's. Or we can also it'll be in the link tree. So if you want to click on the link tree, which is Linktree, or just Linktree/ADHD.rocks, or you can go to ADHD.rocks, www.adhd.rocks, and it'll take you to the link tree, and it'll be in there.
Yeah, and just to be clear, that's ADHD.rocks, but the show is ADHP as in politics.
Yeah. There's a little bit of confusion there, so yeah. At some point, I'll get a domain for the podcast as well, so it'll be easier.
But we are part of the ADHD.rocks network, which is basically just our show, but that's okay. It has history beyond us, that's for sure. Well, beyond me.
It's basically been my handle for the past 3 or 4 years on most social media platforms. I bought the domain because I was going to do a podcast with somebody else, and it was adult dudes having discourse, and which was like I thought was that was a clever title, and but I had the domain, and so I figured, fuck, I'll just use that as my handle for most things, and I have it forwarding to my link tree, and I put all the links to important shit on there, and yeah, so yeah, we may set up a specific to the podcast on Facebook or something, but probably not, considering how most people don't like Facebook or anything Meta anymore. So that's one of the reasons why I went ahead and just made it over on Blue Sky. So
right on. All right, so we'll move to our next segment. So we're going to end the show because I know politics is so much fun. We're going to end the show with a palate cleanser. But before we get to that, we're going to dive into some social media interactions. I'm going to cut it down. We're running long. We're having a good time on this first ever episode. So I'm going to cut it down to just one topic that I feel like kind of sums up the right and their reactionary type. They're both reactionary politics with limited actual nuance. And so I'm in a politics group. I won't say the name of the town or whatever, but it's a local politics group. that is pretty much all libertarian and MAGA or MAGA adjacent people. I seem to be one of the only, maybe the only, or one of a handful of left leaning people in this group. And so the discussion, as it always does with these folks, came up to the Second Amendment. And Washington State wants to institute a permitting system, which they're, of course, all up in arms about, literally and figuratively. Um, and after I had this exchange with a gentleman about, and it was a respectful exchange, it was an educated exchange, it was just totally, totally on the wrong side of thinking about things in my book.
Yeah.
But this guy, he came back to the group and he says somebody shared with him. So before I go further, Todd, are you familiar, without saying too much, are you familiar with the North Carolina governor's race
I am
from this
not.
past cycle?
No.
So it was Democrat Stein versus the Republican. I don't want to spoil this yet, so you may have heard the story when I get to it. But first, I'll tell you what this guy posted.
Okay.
So he posts a clip, and the clip is a MAGA doodle clip, which he tried to say, please don't. He says, I just found this gentleman very compelling and just really broke it down in real life, his support for the Second Amendment. He is genuine, real, and honest. It is worth a watch, and please ignore the MAGA doodle on it. I don't follow that. The video was just sent to me, and I found it compelling. So this is the kind of person that he finds compelling. The video is labeled best 4-minute speech ever. Jaw hits the floor as law-abiding citizen drops a truth bomb. And it's a 4-minute video of this guy going off at a town hall in 2018 about gun rights. It just happens to be the guy who was running for governor this past year. His name is Mark Robinson. And if that name doesn't sound familiar, maybe the story about the Black Nazi does.
Oh.
He's the guy that it turned out he had been on porn websites leaving comments about how he's a black Nazi, and it was just also all these vulgar descriptions of what he would do to his sister-in-law, and it was hard to tell whether he was describing a real thing or just making it up for fun. But he literally talked about like how he would. I'd have to find the actual quotes, but he was talking about, he called himself a black Nazi and how he would just freaking end people if he could. And I just like, this is your guy. This is your guy that's compelling and honest and real and genuine and giving the best speech on the Second Amendment you've ever heard. And he's the guy that calls himself a black Nazi. Like, this is your best. This is your best and brightest. And so that's the kind of stuff I deal.
On the last podcast I was on, we talked about that dude. Yeah, and I do remember hearing about that dude. He something about him like going on porn sites and leaving horrible comments and just and then like, oh, that wasn't me. That wasn't even my computer. I don't know what you're talking about. Kind of thing.
Yeah, and I tried to call him out. I was like, "Hey, this just so I gave him the benefit of the doubt because of how he said he didn't know who this guy was. It was just sent to him. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I was like, "Hey, you clearly don't know who this guy is. Here's the backstory." And then they came back to me with, "Well, if that's really true, that's unfortunate, but you should just listen to what he has to say. Like, do you agree with what he has to say or not?"
Wow. Yeah, I don't care.
And
I don't care what a Nazi says.
Exactly. I said, "I'm sorry, but I'm not debating the merits of the argument from a Nazi." And and that's when I received a private message from the admin saying that I needed to learn how to play nice in the sandbox. So I guess instead of taking them to task to their faces or to their keyboards, we're going to talk about them as this podcast goes.
I have been known to like look up things on Snopes when people post things on social media. When I know something is absolutely incorrect, I will find the story of someone who actually did the legwork of finding out whether or not the information someone just posted is real or not. And I'll say, hey, Snopes says that's bullshit, and here's why. And they go, well, I don't believe what they have to say. They're a liberal website or blah 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 blah. I'm like, they're not though. They're nonpartisan if anything. So.
Yeah, I'm a petty little fact checker. I will fact check the
Oh,
hell out of
dude,
anybody.
I had someone mad at me for like a week because I called him out on bullshit. It was something about um, it was the COVID stuff about like causing heart problems or whatever. I was like, people who got COVID who already had the potential for heart issues, it just became worse because of COVID. It didn't cause those things to happen. It just made it worse quicker, and they would have had those issues later in life had they not taken care of themselves and whatever else. It just exasperated. Is that the right word? And it just made things work worse quicker than it would have naturally. And they're like, no, that's not true. And it's like, well, here's the story about how that is incorrect. And they did all the work as far as figuring out the sources of the story, where it came from, and why it's a thing, and why it's incorrect. And they just kind of like, arguing with a person who is all about Trump or is a QAnon conspiracy theorist, they are never gonna believe you, even if you give them the information that will educate them. They will just say, "That's not real. That's fake news."
Yeah, and it's important to fact check it because the social networks are all leaving it to us now to fact check. They aren't doing their own fact checking anymore. It's all either community note or just holding each other accountable.
Yeah,
So that's what we got to do. And
yeah,
I always strive for factual, actual
yeah.
information,
And
not rumor and innuendo, unless Trump wants to make that game and we can have a good laugh at his expense.
yeah, and the
Um,
thing is anytime I've ever posted something, then I was told, "Hey, that's incorrect. Here's the source of why that's incorrect." I
exactly.
I've been like, "Oh shit, fuck! I'll take that down and I'll apologize."
Yes.
I didn't know.
Yes.
It looked real to me, so I posted it. So yeah, I'm
You
not
should
gonna.
never get upset if someone fact checks you because the whole goal is to be factual anyways.
Yeah,
I want to be right. Like that's my thing. Is I just want to be correct about stuff.
yeah.
And so that yeah. And
Oh,
so here's another example of stuff that gets posted in this group.
yeah.
So mandated in Washington in just the last 5 years, comprehensive sexual education for K and pre-K, aka grooming kids and lying to them about gender, and
Oh,
then ethnic studies. So really, like the first one's probably a misrepresentation of what's happening, but if you took them on face value, grooming kids and lying to them, bad. But then ethnic studies, LGBTQ history, why is that like that's not why is that bad? like so I understand why you think the first thing's bad. Why is ethnic studies bad? Why is LGBTQ history bad? And they say and that's just kind of where and I kind of get where they're coming from in the sense of like, well, I don't get where they're siloed in this right wing media echo chamber, and so they get told, but they just the lack of critical thinking and the lack of
yeah,
the absolute credulity in the things they're told by their right wing talking heads is just
yeah.
it's insane.
It also like one of the things that just like it made my brain hurt. I mean, I legit had like a headache after listening to someone talk about stuff like that, and I'm like, this person I was talking to went to college and they're one degree away from getting a doctorate, and they're talking all this shit. I was like, how is it you're that college educated in mental health studies, mind you, and you believe this stuff? It blew me away. It's like, well, it makes total sense if you blah 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 blah. I'm like, oh, oh God, I'm getting a headache, kind of thing. And it was just like, I mean, it's to be fair, um, that person is my older sister, and she had been a part of a cult when she was a teenager. I mean,
That'll fuck you up.
they didn't call it a cult, but let's be honest, it was a cult.
The Colts don't call it a cult.
Yeah, you know, it was it's one of those churches that like wouldn't let women have a say in anything. They were just subservient types and whatnot. So,
Oh, the Southern Baptists.
Worldwide Church of God. They were like
Oh, okay.
they are very similar to like the Jehovah's Witnesses in that you don't celebrate any holidays that have any kind of any
Uh,
ties to pagan rituals. So no Christmas, no Easter, nothing, and they don't do holidays. They don't do birthdays. None of that shit. So yeah. And so yeah, when I just like okay, yeah, this tracks. She was in a cult when she was like 19, so yeah.
there you go. Well, I think that's the perfect time to kind of go to a palate cleanser. What do you think?
Yes, and I got the perfect one. I just pulled it up on my Google like news feed. Uh, at,
All right, we're doing What's Geek this week.
what's geek this week exactly? I like that title. Um, uh, so it was announced about a week and a half ago that Goonies is getting a sequel.
A sequel or a legacy reboot?
It is a sequel, as far as I know. It says the
Awesome.
sequel. What we know so far, a Goonies sequel is on the way with one Hollywood icon already attached. It says here's
Corey
everything.
Feldman?
Hold on. Here's everything you need to know about the Goonies 2, including what cast members from the original have said about the upcoming sequel. Almost 40 years after the release of the Goonies, a sequel is in the works. At this time, it's not just a rumor. Warner Brothers has officially developing the Goonies 2 and has hired a writer and producer, as reported by Variety. With the original cast including Oscar winner Ki Hui, the guy who played Data. I can't pronounce his name.
Yeah, I don't even know why I tried.
Yeah.
He's awesome. He's in everything.
Yeah. He's fucking awesome. Sean Astin, who is Mikey, are all grown up. There's plenty of questions as to what form the sequel will take, while there are still plenty of unknowns regarding the project. Here's everything we know so far. So far, it appears that the Goonies 2 is still in the very early stages of development. As of February 3rd, at the February 3rd premiere of Love Hurts, an action film starring Goonies original cast member Key, the guy who played Data, and Austin. Neither actor was openly aware of the sequel. As such, not many details have been released, including the timeline to the theaters, which is going to be a few years, at least 2 years away, guys, easily. The website Backstage says that movies take anywhere from 1 to 2.5 years to make. It could be that the Goonies 2 is more advanced in development than we know, but a release date is probably a ways away. I mean, I'm saying probably 3 years, unless they've been working on it. I do follow the guy who owns the Goonies house on social media. It's hard to find him because at least on TikTok, TikTok seems to not want to show you anything that says the Goonies. So if you know the guy's name, you can look him up and you can find him. I can
And
post
it has a new owner somewhat recently, right?
in the last year. In the last year and a half, Beeman is the guy's name, and he bought the house last year. And I talked to him along with my former co-host from the last podcast I was a part of. Me and him talked to Beeman, and he was talking about how they were trying to do a reality show where they were going to do like a restoration of the house. They were going to make it more screen accurate to the movie, so when people come to visit the house, he can give them tours and stuff like that. The last thing I heard as far as the movie was like right before Donner died. They were talking about doing a movie like 10 years ago. They were talking about doing a sequel, and Corey Feldman was all talking about it. He's like, this is going to be great, blah, 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 blah. And so it sounds like it is definitely in the works. It's probably in the early stages. I did talk to Beeman a couple, last week. I sent him a message, hey, I've been hearing rumors about another movie coming. Have you heard anything? Because if anybody would know if it was a real thing or not, he would know, because they're going to be using his house in the movie. And he said it is true. and they are in the works of creating another movie. And then I saw his most recent post a couple days ago, and they're gutting the house, and they're like making it look like it did in the 80s. So,
So
or at
you
least,
got it straight from the horse's mouth, though. That's a
yeah.
legitimate ADHP exclusive.
Yeah, I mean, luckily for me, we were able to talk to him. I might even be able to get him on here if you want, but we can do another Zoom call or whatever. But he was a super nice guy, and he talked about how he saw that the house was in the market, and there were some big names that wanted to buy the house. Somebody in the cast wanted to buy the house. He wouldn't tell us who, but he says somebody in the cast wanted to buy the house, and or it could have also been the studio for all I know. But he said that somebody
Sure.
involved with the original movie wanted to buy the house, and he got the house. He actually doesn't live in Oregon. He comes out to Oregon like every once in a while. If someone says, "Hey, we're going to be going down to the part of Oregon," I'm drawing a blank on the name right now, the town name,
Astoria.
Astoria. Thank you, Astoria. I mean, if you are a '80s movie fan, you know that there's been a bunch of movies filmed in Astoria, one being The Goonies, and so he bought the house, and one of his neighbors is not a fan of all the fans because a lot of
Wasn't the previous owner not a fan of all the
I
fans?
mean, the previous owner was okay with fans for a while, but then the people that were coming to the house
They
were
trampled the place.
were not being respectful of the neighborhood or the property. So people were like parking up on the road, and they were just standing in front of the house taking pictures and videos and doing TikToks and all kinds of stupid shit. The truffle shuffle videos and whatnot. And so since Beeman has become the owner of the house, he put up signs saying, "Hey, we like the fans coming to visit, but if you're going to come up, park down here, and it's at the end of the driveway, and you can park here and walk up, and be mindful of the other people who live on this road. Not everyone likes their yards being trampled on, and don't go inside the yard if no one's here. If he goes, if I'm home, I will let people come in. They do have to do the truffle shuffle before they are allowed to come in the yard, as per the movie. And but you'll get a personal tour from him if he's home. If he's at the house, you'll get a tour. Although if they're doing renovations on the house, they're probably not going to be doing those anymore for the foreseeable future. But yeah, the Goonies 2 is a thing. I personally hope that we get to see either the kids or the grandkids of the original kids from the original movie, and maybe having Mikey come back to Astoria because mom just died, or dad, the guy who played the dad died in like the 90s, I think. So we wouldn't have that kind of story, but so yeah, I would
But
think
no, you have the adult kids and then their children probably.
yeah,
I could definitely see a Stranger Things style. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised with Sean Astin involved. I wouldn't be surprised if some writers from Stranger Things maybe are involved,
that'd be amazing,
or that production team.
especially if they found another map, or or if they're in a different part of the world. If Mikey and his family are living in like I don't know, some other part of the country, and they also find a similar type of story where it's a different pirate, or maybe they moved to the Caribbean. Who knows? I don't know. I'm
Do
excited.
a crossover. Johnny Depp's going to show up.
Yeah, Johnny Depp shows up. He's like, "Are you One-Eyed Willie?" No, no, that's my pet name for my penis. But no, when I
That
saw
was that was one thing I did not want to think about tonight.
Johnny Depp's penis, yeah,
Yeah, just for tonight. It's every other day I got to
yeah,
think
yeah, yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, I always think about that now, right? Not really, but yeah, no,
Yeah, but get you
huh?
I was just gonna say, get your baby Rudes ready.
Right? Uh, why is the rum always gone? But yeah. No, I saw that and I was like, oh, fucking sweet. This really is real and this is happening. And it took him a little while before he responded. I messaged him right after I saw the original article like weeks ago. And then like 2 weeks ago, I got a response from him. He always starts a message with "Hey, you guys," and then
Of
puts
course,
it.
you have to.
Yeah. So yeah. Um,
But I'm really glad you chose that because The Goonies was a super influential movie for me. So for those, uh, there's about what like a 10-year age difference between us,
yeah.
roughly.
I'm gonna be 54 in September, so I don't know.
So a little bit more than 10 years, yeah, because I'll be 40 in October.
Okay.
Um, but so I saw The Goonies when I was super little. Like it basically came out when I was one,
Oh
and
wow.
yeah, I saw it on TV or something when I was like 3 or 4. And that movie is when I have an adventure dream, it's like set in the Goonies. It looks like the Goonies. Like
Right.
that movie terrified me as a kid,
Yeah.
and like I watch it now and it's just kind of silly and fun.
Have you
But as a kid, that scared me.
have you seen the octopus scene?
I've seen the whole movie, but what do you mean?
The version of the movie that is on television, unless I think there was one time it was on HBO, they had the scene with the octopus. There is a scene in the movie that is
Oh,
not
maybe there's an even scarier version I could have gotten.
there's a and I remember seeing it in theaters when it first came out. So it was like 85, 84, whatever it was. And when they first go into that cave and they are underwater, and yeah, they're in that sequence where they're in the water and they turn and they see the ship.
Uh
They
huh.
there's a whole sequence where one of the kids is being attacked by a giant squid or octopus or whatever.
It sounds familiar. It's been so long since I've
It's
seen it.
it's a bonus
Like
it's a bonus
I
feature
have
now.
trauma memories around it, so there's fine.
It's a bonus feature now. So yeah. So yeah, we should absolutely get this wrapped up because um, Bluetooth headphones only work for
Yeah, my headphones are dying, so I guess that sets the limit on this at around probably fair enough. Uh, but
well.
this went great.
Yeah. I mean, this is about normal for a podcast with me anyhow, an hour and a half. That sounds about right. So I'm gonna do some post editing. We're gonna take out a couple things, and I'll add like intro and outro music and that kind of stuff. So you'll hear all that, and we'll.
ADHD, we're right.